Welcome to Ethereal Archives. This is your intelligence briefing for Monday, January 12, 2026. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday indeed. And it's going to be an intense one for anyone trying to keep up with it's the most aggressive launch roadmap we've seen in the hardcore space in a year.
For sure. We are tracking Monsters and Memories, M&M, and the window for just, casual prep. That is officially slam shut.
It's over.
Yeah. Exactly. Our mission today is a proper deep dive into all the research. We've been collating everything dev roadmaps, thousands of lines of playtest feedback, sentiment analysis from the forums.
All of it.
And we are here to extract the strategic knowledge you need. This is not some fan chat. This is your high-stakes war room prep for beta and, more importantly, for early access. We have to move from just theory to actionable intelligence.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? That tension is already splitting the player base into two camps. We have two very critical, very different dates coming up, and they demand two completely distinct mindsets.
They really do. And I'll be honest, my brain is already living entirely in the future. I'm on June 1st, 2026.
Of course you are.
That's the early access launch. That date is everything because it's when they activate the no wipe promise. That is when history begins, permanence. Every single hour you invest, every piece of loot, it actually matters from that point on. So my entire focus right now is the land rush.
And we should be clear that land rush isn't just some, fun side activity. It's an economic imperative. It's all driven by that non-instanced housing system.
It is. For anyone listening who's targeting economic dominance, let's be super explicit. I need to lock down prime physical merchant real estate right near Night Harbor. That's the main human trade hub. It's going to be the choke point for everyone.
The nexus of commerce.
My whole plan involves using tools like the tunnel.xyz to track market prices in real time so I can undercut the competition on day one. It is all about getting that physical foothold to dominate the crafting supply chain. And that means, high-level carpentry, stone cutting for the foundations.
Right. It's a huge investment, but That's the long-term play. And by focusing so hard on June 1st right now, you're completely missing the closer, and I would argue, more pragmatic date.
Which is?
March 1st. That's when closed beta starts. And crucially, it starts with a complete character wipe.
Ah, the great Equalizer, the big reset button.
Precisely. And if you're just dreaming about your real estate empire, you are missing the final window for what we're calling mad science testing. Since everything becomes permanent in June, beta is the last chance to just break the game systems.
Okay, define break the game here. What are we looking at? What classes or mechanics are the biggest balance risks we need to be analyzing right now?
We have to zero in on the classes that can operate on their own. Specifically, Necromancer pet balancing and the high-skill Enchanter charm mechanics.
Okay.
For Necros, the critical question is, can they solo so effectively that they undermine the whole group-centric design? Their power loop, trading health for mana is risky, but if their permanent pets get too efficient,
then the whole force grouping philosophy falls apart.
It gets compromised, yeah. If a Necromancer can sustain high-tier farming without a healer or CC, the entire gold per hour calculation for a full group gets thrown out of whack.
So if our mad science testing shows that a Necro's GPH can even come close to a 6-person groups, that's a catastrophic balance failure. They have to fix that before June. We need to find that breaking point.
Exactly. And the Enchanter is the other side of that coin. We have to push their charm mechanics to the absolute limit.
Right. Charming an enemy to fight for you.
But the duration is volatile. If that charm breaks at the wrong moment, you've got a high-level mob suddenly turning on your very squishy Enchanter, and that's usually a group wipe.
So we need to test the charm break rates, the duration on specific mobs, all of it before the build lock.
It's essential. If we don't stress test this now, the long-term economy could be completely dominated by a few easily exploitable class loops.
Okay, the realist makes a very, very good point. We have 2 months to just burn through data, knowing it's all temporary anyway. That shift in focus, it's crucial. But before we get deeper into that, a quick word for you, the person listening right now.
Please listen to this.
Our data shows that a full 90% of you who follow this kind of deep strategic content are not actually subscribed to the feed.
Which is, frankly, a colossal strategic blunder given how fast this is all moving.
It is. So if you want to be prepared, if you want to be ahead of your guild, you need to equip your notification slot immediately. The clock is ticking. The critical May 1st build lock is coming up. And then boom, June 1st launch. You can't just catch up later. Don't be caught flat-footed.
No.
Okay, so let's really unpack this timeline because Niche Worlds Cult is running a super aggressive, but also like a really structured transition here from testing to a live service in 2026. The schedule is tight, but it communicates a lot of confidence.
It really does. And what's fascinating is the velocity of it all, after so many years in alpha,
Mm-hmm.
committing to that May 1st build lock and then launching just a month later. It signals they're prioritizing reliability over speed, which is a very prudent move in a genre known for, well, vaporware.
It all kicks off, like you said, March 1st, 2026. The closed beta, the fresh start, and the pre-beta wipe just levels the playing field completely. It guarantees that new players, especially the ones getting in through that lottery, can actually compete with alpha vets.
And that's so important for testing the new player experience, the NPE,
Right.
because it hits 2 points of failure.
Yeah.
First, you get a diverse testing pool. Your legacy alpha guys, they know the world too well. They've seen it at its most broken.
Huh?
By bringing in lottery winners from that huge, 4,000 plus person wait list, you inject fresh eyes.
People who will get stuck on things the veterans take for granted.
Exactly. They'll spot the onboarding friction. They don't know the weird commands. They don't know how to fight the UI. They're going to highlight the exact choke points that will make a potential subscriber quit in the first hour.
And that lottery system itself is a genius move for building hype. It's a psychological lever. It's created this intense feeling of scarcity and exclusivity. If you get a key, it feels like a golden ticket, right?
Yes. And it increases the commitment of the people who get in.
Yeah.
And it's all tied to the game's core philosophy, group play. They have a friend invites system for the lottery winners.
Acknowledging that you're supposed to play this with other people?
Yes. They're making sure pre-made groups can get in to test guild formation, group logistics, raid systems, everything. They aren't just relying on random pugs.
So, okay, March and April are dominated by beta. Then we hit the next big moment, May 1st, 2026, the build lock.
And this, right here, is a tactical masterpiece in risk mitigation for an indie dev.
Yeah.
A complete code freeze. They've been explicit. After this date, no new features, no new content, nothing. For a whole month before launch, it is all hands on deck for bug fixes and server stability.
Okay, I agree it's pragmatic, but a tactical masterpiece. Or is it just a necessary concession? I mean, 1 month isn't a long time to stabilize something as complex as an MUD interaction system. Couldn't this just be covered for feature delays?
That's a fair question, but look at the history of their competitors.
Yeah.
The catastrophic day one failures that have plagued every major MMO launch. A dedicated 4-week stability window is a massive commitment. They're choosing to sacrifice a month of feature dev to prevent a launch day crash.
A crash that leads to mass refunds and destroys their reputation before it even starts.
Precisely. They're minimizing risk, and for a subscription game, stability is the single most valuable feature you can launch with.
Okay, I see the logic. Stability over hype. Which brings us to the big one. June 1st, 2026. Early access launch. The hammer drops.
The moment of prominence. Your $15 a month subscription kicks in, the no wipe policy is active, all your progress, all your gear, it's permanent. And that is when the true scarcity economy begins.
And this is exactly why that land rush anxiety is so palpable in the community. The whole economy is tied to physical, finite space.
The scarcity economy absolutely revolves around that non-instanced housing. It's the golden ticket to long-term wealth.
Let's talk about the physics of it. Unlike modern MMOs, where your house is in its own little pocket dimension, here, the houses are in the open world. They take up physical space on a street.
Which means there's a finite supply of good land near Night Harbor Central Plaza or the teleport spires or the main trade routes. It's limited.
This creates huge monopoly fears. People are already comparing it to older sandbox games where land scarcity just led to these elitist monopolies.
The fear is that a few big organized guilds will just coordinate their resources and wall off the best property before anyone else even gets to max level.
And you need that land for a merchant strategy to even work. You can't just stand there shouting WTS. You need the physical property to set up a permanent merchant stall, which means you need carpentry, you need stone cutting, maybe even blacksmithing.
It's a massive gold sink right at the start. The first 72 hours are going to be a mad scramble. This isn't just about vanity. It's a foundational race for long-term passive economic control. If you don't get that spot near the bank in Night Harbor, your ability to influence the market is just diminished, possibly forever.
This whole tension proves one thing. You have to prepare. But it also begs the question, why would anyone put up with this much difficulty? And that brings us to the game's core design doctrine. The cult of friction.
I mean, if you connect the dots between the land rush and the unforgiving design, the reason the scarcity works is because the game fundamentally rejects modern quality of life features. The enjoyment is, well, it's paradoxical. It comes directly from the difficulty and the inconvenience.
Yeah, the fun factor is the deliberate rejection of that cheap dopamine hit. The tester feedback, all the source docs, they all say the same thing. The joy comes from the psychological and social mechanics that theme park MMOs have spent the last decade systematically removing.
And the primary engine for that is the thrill of interdependency, the social glue. You can't survive past the first few zones on your own, so forced socialization isn't just an option, it's mandatory. You need other people.
And you see this physically in what the alpha testers all call camp culture. You should probably explain what that's like for anyone who hasn't experienced it.
Camp culture is, well, it's the required act of planting your 6-person group in one specific spot deep in a dangerous dungeon for hours at a time. You're just sitting there chatting, waiting for the one monster you need to respawn. There's no group finder. You have to walk there.
And then there's the logistical nightmare that goes with it. The dreaded camp checks.
Ugh, yes. The nerve-wracking process of sending a message to another group deep in the dungeon, or worse, running all the way out there yourself, just to see if their spot is open, or if they're leaving soon.
It turns strangers into allies or enemies in an instant.
It builds community not through convenience, but because the alternative to cooperation is a very swift, very consequential death.
The stakes are just so high. I found this one source quote that I think just perfectly defines the psychological value of grouping in this game. A tester said, "The fear of the world makes finding a group member feel," and I'm quoting here, "like finding a real ally in the midst of war."
That should be the tagline for the entire game. It's perfect. Every successful group isn't just a system notification, it's a strategic achievement. And the devs make sure of it through math.
Right, the experience bonuses. We saw the data. There are explicit scaling XP bonuses for 4, 5, and 6-player parties. It's a direct mechanical enforcement of the group-centric philosophy. You are financially penalized for not working together.
And that extends to class dependency. They are bringing back the rigid, holy trinity tank, healer, damage plus utility roles. This is not a game where everyone can self-heal or sprint away from danger.
Which is why there's so much hype for classes like Enchanters and Bards. In M&M, the Enchanter is the absolute linchpin. They're mana regen for the group. They're crowd control. It's mandatory for high-end content. They're not just a DPS with a stun.
And then there's the whole taxi sub-economy. The absolute reliance on druids and wizards for teleportation is huge. There's no fast travel. The world is massive. Moving from one continent to another is a marketable service.
So interdependency is the social contract. Okay, let's move on to earned progression and consequence. This is where friction adds real weight to what you do.
The idea is that difficulty breeds real satisfaction. Because the world refuses to hold your hand. No mini-maps, no quest markers. Simple things feel momentous.
Just navigating between 2 cities, which is a 2-minute task in any other MMO, becomes an hours-long, perilous journey here. Getting one piece of beetle armor isn't just an upgrade, it's a historic achievement because of what you had to go through to get it. It's a complete rejection of participation trophies.
And the ultimate symbol of the cult of fiction is, of course, the corpse run.
Ah, yes. Running naked through hostile territory. For anyone who hasn't had the pleasure. When you die, you respawn in a safe city, but your body, with all your gear, stays exactly where you fell.
And the penalty is brutal. You have to run back naked, often through high-level zones, just to get your stuff. If you die again on the way, you start over. Mm-hmm. The audience doesn't just tolerate this, they praise it. It adds real, palpable consequence to death.
It forces you to ask for help, reinforcing that interdependency. Death actually matters.
And this whole concept connects M&M to its competitors, like Project Quorum or P99, but with one key difference.
And this is its unique selling point.
Those private servers run what we call a solved game, meaning the original game was figured out 25 years ago. Every strategy, every drop location, every spawn timer, it's all on a wiki. You're just executing known strategies. There's no discovery.
M&M takes those classic, harsh mechanics, but applies them to a brand new world.
Exactly. It has the atmosphere of 1999, but you get to be truly lost again. You have to draw your own maps. You have to risk your neck to figure out loot tables that aren't finished on some wiki yet. That sense of wonder, of genuine discovery, is what everyone's so excited about. It's a return to true exploration.
The ultimate throwback. Speaking of throwbacks, let's get into the system that bridges that old school feel with new tech. the MUD interaction system. Okay, it's where it gets really, really interesting for me because this is the biggest mechanical risk M&M is taking. It's a high-def 3D game, 2026 tech, but its core input system is from a 1980s text adventure.
The MUD, or multi-user dungeon action system, is this deliberate, deep nod to the genre's text-based roots. It insists that the player has to interact with the world through language as much as through movement.
So instead of just running up to a chest and hitting E to interact, you're typing commands or using the super context-sensitive menu. It adds this whole layer of depth and friction beyond just clicking on things.
It turns the environment into a puzzle box, not just a static background. You have to actively investigate things with text. You have to think about how you'd physically interact with them.
Let's run through some of the commands because they really show what this adds. The most basic ones are look and inspect.
And these don't just zoom in on the object. They give you these dense text descriptions. And those descriptions have clues that are totally invisible in the 3D graphics. You have to read the room, not just glance at it.
Then you get into the physical commands. We saw pry,
which you use to force open chests or doors.
Sure.
But it has a tool dependency. You need a crowbar in your inventory. And your success depends on your strength stat.
And then the really esoteric ones, the puzzle commands. Push, pull, rub, smell, taste.
These are almost unheard of in modern games. You might need to rub a statue to trigger a hidden door, or pour a potion on a specific spot to reveal a message. They're asking you to role-play the solution, not just click it.
I love this. It demands critical thinking, and that anecdote from the playtest about the well is just it's peak immersion, but it's also peak danger.
It summarizes the whole ethos of the game. A player used the MED system to just drink from a well, a totally voluntary role-play action. Type the command, drank the water.
And got poisoned.
That one moment reinforces that the world is entirely interactive and consequentially dangerous. You can and will make fatal mistakes just by being curious.
But this system is at the heart of the whole usability debate.
Hey.
The purists love it, right? It's deep, it's intellectual.
Right. But the pragmatists are sounding the alarms. They're worried that combining this with the already difficult UI is just going to create this massive barrier to entry.
This highlights the difference between good friction, like corpse runs, and bad friction, like a cumbersome UI. And that polarization is something we have to get into now. Let's look at the sentiment analysis.
The sentiment around M&M is this fascinating study in contrast. It shows exactly where the community draws the line. There's this overwhelming, almost cult-like support for the business model, but at the same time, this deep frustration with the interface.
Let's start with the positive stuff, because the trust in Niche World's cult is the foundation of all this hype, and it's almost all about their monetization policy.
The promise of no cash shop and the straight $15 a month subscription. This niche sees that as a fair trade. It prevents pay to win. It means visual progression isn't cheapened by cosmetics. It builds huge goodwill.
And that for us by us mentality extends to their tolerance for bugs. The community sees the dev team as this passionate, almost volunteer group. So they're willing to forgive a lot because they believe the devs share their vision.
But, and this is a huge but, that goodwill lets them endure gameplay friction. The difficulty. It does not excuse interface friction. The line is drawn right there.
And that brings us to the biggest negative. The single most consistent complaint we saw everywhere. Interface hostility. The UI actively fights you.
The feedback constantly uses words like archaic and working against the player. Even the core fans find basic things like inventory management, spell memorization, or trading to be just cumbersome. This is interface friction, and it is universally reviled.
It's that moment where the game's systems get in the way of the fun instead of creating it. If you have to spend 15 minutes organizing your bags after every vendor run, that's not consequence, that's just bad design.
And then there's the visual clarity issue with the night cycle. The intent was great, but the execution, not so much.
So walk us through that. What was the goal versus what actually happens?
The goal was immersive darkness, forcing players to use torches, lanterns, light spells. It's great for atmosphere, reinforces danger, but in practice, the darkness is so absolute that players are just maxing out their monitor's gamma settings to see anything.
Which completely ruins the moody atmosphere and just gives you this ugly, washed-out screen.
Exactly, and it has a physical cost. The feedback explicitly mentioned that this causes physical eye strain. It turns an immersive design choice into a literally painful user experience.
And finally, we have to touch on the technical anxiety. Even with all the goodwill, the stakes are just too high for certain types of failures.
People are forgiving of small bugs. They're not forgiving of critical failures in a game with these kinds of death penalties. A bug that results in a lost corpse is the major red flag.
Explain why that's a I quit moment and not just a frustrating one.
Because your corpse holds everything. All your rare gear collected over weeks, maybe months. If a bug makes your corpse fall through the world or become unretrievable, you have permanently lost all of it, and you still had the XP debt. The community is unanimous on this. Fixing corpse bugs is more important than new content.
So that's the tension. Loving the philosophy, hating the interface. If they can fix those critical tech issues and just polish the UI enough to let people access the deep gameplay, M&M could really capture this very committed audience.
Okay, so let's synthesize all of this. Monsters and Memories is making this electric high-stakes bet. It's betting its entire success on interdependence, consequence, and a community that is willing to pay $15 a month for intentional friction.
And that means the value of the Mark 1st beta can't be overstated. That is the last zero-consequence chance to stress test the Necro solo loops, the Enchanter terms, and searchability before it all goes permanent on June 1st. You have to use beta for strategic sabotage. Find the breaking points. And what a contradiction this whole thing is. It's 2026. We've got ray tracing, AI-driven games, and yet the game that demands the most intense prep is the one that makes you solve a puzzle by typing.
The ultimate throwback. I mean, imagine being deep in a dungeon, high-level mobs everywhere, and you have to pause to type out "smell the air for a clue," or "rebel wall" to find a secret passage. It's both archaic and incredibly futuristic. That friction is the point.
It is the war room energy we've been looking for. So for you listening, the mission is clear. Decide if you're a land rush advocate or a mad science tester. If you believe in this, you need to subscribe before June 1st, prep for the March 1st wipe, and share this deep dive with your guild mates who are sick of theme park MMOs.
And we have to give a massive shout out this week to the Guild Dissidia.
Yeah.
A snuggle of sloths for tuning in and getting ready for the drop. We see you, and we wish you swift, successful course runs.
And as we wrap, let's leave you with a final provocative thought. M&M relies on permanent progression and that steady subscription model. But the dev team is basically volunteer-driven, running on goodwill. How sustainable is that model once the game is live and paying customers are demanding 247 support for game-breaking corpse bugs?
And critically, we know they're holding back major content, the Deep Zone, the Deep Elf race for Module 1. If they can't execute and deliver that module quickly after launch, they risk a massive content drought right when the population is highest.
That, my friend, is a deep dive for another time. We'll see you next time on Aetherall Archives.
Be well, stay safe in the dark, and may your corpse runs be swift.